इससे समझाओ।
विन ग्रिप टेक्नोलॉजी कुछ इस तरह सीमेंट को ग्रिप करता है बिल्कुल टाइट।
SRMB TMT चैंपियंस की पसंद।
Hi everyone, this is Norman Kochnak here for Extra Time with a very, reasonably good-looking bunch of men. We're here today after another IPL match, in fact, game 17. There's still another, 43 to go, including the playoffs. We're kind of almost a third of the way through, almost. We've just witnessed a match which I'm still scratching my head because I was quite convinced before the match the Mumbai Indians would win this. Punjab things would suffer another loss. But yet again, the unpredictable aspect of this tournament comes to the fore, and we have a situation where Punjab Kings appear to have won this match in a canter. They've defeated the Mumbai Indians by some 9 wickets, with Chris Gale hitting 6s and 4s towards the end with KL Rahul, and they did it quite rather conservatively. Their actual strike rates were quite standard, but again, the Chennai pitches produced low scores, with Mumbai Indians only scoring 131 for the loss of 6 wickets. Anyway, I think this is a match where there's a fair bit of discussion to happen. Is this an aberration? Is this very similar to the Rajasthan Royals match where they played Delhi Capitals, where Delhi Capitals were beaten? Is there something similar to that? Will Mumbai Indians bounce back when they get to the other section of the tournament where they play Ahmedabad, the Kolkatas, etc., and not in Chennai? So we've got John Sumitra, boys. How are you, Sumitra?
Hi, good evening, Norman. We're all good, thank you.
That's good.
All safe. I must say we're all still safe.
That's very important. I'm glad you're saying that. We have Jabashir Sen, who is wearing that Chelsea hat still. I mean, are Chelsea winning any games? I don't know. I'm not sure. He's joined us. How are you, Jabashir?
I'm fine, Norman. Thank you.
And we have Chris Vernon without a hat, looking quite white. He's not as suntanned as I thought he would be. Are you playing much cricket, is the question?
Playing tomorrow. Yeah, we've got another pre-season friendly tomorrow. But yeah.
I've lost him already. He'll come back. He's back. So Sumitra, mate, moves to your right a bit. The fact is that Chris Vernon is also here. Chris having played at Lord's recently. So we're actually in India, Australia and England when Chris rejoins, all in different parts of the world. And I do feel sorry for you guys in India at the moment. You're going through a degree of hell with COVID, whereas in Australia we seem to be able to act normally, and I still can't come to terms with that. It's beyond me how that's possible. All right, Sumitra and Debashis, what's your take? I mean, Rohit Sharma, you have to argue. Rohit Sharma batted particularly well today, but he was almost on his lonesome with only Surya Kumar, who got 33. There wasn't much in terms of depth. Their batting today. What's your take, Jabashis? What's your thoughts?
I would say I would show me through that, please.
No, carry on. No problem.
I would say it was an aberration. Means obviously, once this Chennai leg is over for Mumbai Indians, I think they are going to bounce back, because this wicket is not a very good advertisement for stroke players, I would say. And what is hurting for Mumbai Indians is that if you look at the last season, you have the likes of Ishan Kishan and Surya Kumar Yadav, who played a very, very pivotal role in helping Mumbai Indians reach that final. But Ishan Kishan has been he looked totally out of touch. Means that has been hurting because he has been persisted with so far, but he hasn't done anything good for Mumbai Indians so far. And one more thing is that Mumbai Indians need to think about playing 4 foreigners. Without saying so, because I think in a tournament like IPL, that one foreigner does make a difference. Show me through that.
Yeah, so okay, go. What's your thoughts?
First of all, I think credit should be given where it is due. I will not say it is an aberration. I will say that Rahul read the wicket very well, because by deciding to bat second on this wicket, I think that was the first right decision he took today. because at the toss, Rohit said that I would have batted first if I'd won the toss. That means it's very clear that Rahul read the wicket much better than Rohit did. That was the first thing. We all knew that Chennai would not be a high-scoring match, and today the first half the wicket was very sticky, and stroke making was not possible at all, which you could see with the way the Mumbai batsmen batted. And the good thing is that uh, Punjab Kings made a very important change in their team by bringing in Ravi Bishnoi. I'm surprised that he's coming so late into this tournament, but better late than never. Ravi Bishnoi made a great big difference, and batting second obviously was the first right thing that Punjab did. And if you notice, when Punjab batted, the wicket was much better, and that's why even somebody like Chris Gale, hats off to him. This man who loves to hit the long boundaries, completely changed his game and played a lot of strokes back of the wicket to score his runs. I think tactically, Punjab was a much superior team, and credit should be given to them. Yes, it's the last set of matches that Mumbai and Chennai have played in Chennai. Sorry, Mumbai and Punjab have played in Chennai. Now they move to Delhi, where the wickets will be fresher, and you can expect some better contests.
Yeah, I just want to give my thoughts on this for a moment. I was maintaining the thought that Rahul should actually go down the order and Gale should open. I don't necessarily mean in regards to the Chennai pitch, but I think Chris Gale is at his best when he actually opens an innings. And I think they're making one mistake. Even though they've won the match, they need to consider having Chris Gale opening with Agarwal and perhaps putting Rahul down the order, and even the potential of Milan coming into the team and the other pitches that we're going to encounter. If Punjab Kings are going to have any chance, they need to reshuffle their batting order, despite the emphatic result here today. You've just mentioned, Sumitra, about both Ravi Bishnoi. And I also have a lot of time for Moses Enriques. He bowled very miserly today, only 4 per over, which is one of the lowest bowling rates, I think, in terms of runs against his bowling that I've seen. He started the innings off particularly well. Now, I think that the likes of Meredith and Richardson,
Jordan
and Jordan as well. I mean, but those sort of players, they may figure more on the faster wickets, but this is the sort of bowling life that I like to see. I think taking the pace of the ball is rather crucial, especially against a team like Mumbai Indians and the Rohit Sharmas of the world. So that's my thoughts on that. What about Chris Vernon? What's your thoughts from England?
My thoughts from England. I've said from the start that if Punjab can get their bowling attack right, they're quite a decent threat in this competition. And people were saying last week when they lost 2 games that they're going to finish last, so they're not going to be in the top 4. I still see them threatening that top 4 quite considerably. I disagree that I think that, I like Chris Gale, but Rahul and Agarwal are probably the best 2 opening bats, combination-wise in the last IPL, certainly last IPL, and so far, they consistently put runs on, and Agarwal and Rahul, one of the 2 of them can score quite quickly when they need to. So I don't think you need to change something that isn't broken there. I'm just been disappointed with the Chennai wicket. It's the fact that Moses Enriques and Deepak Hood have opened the bowling, is testament to how difficult that wicket is. Deepak Hood has taken 7 wickets in 80 odd games. He clearly doesn't bowl. Moses Enriques hardly plays, let alone bowls much. So the fact that those 2 have opened the bowling probably shows that how difficult that wicket early on and to go at that run rate. You're not going to go to Ahmedabad or to Mumbai and those 2 will not be opening the bowling. I guarantee you that. So it probably just shows how tricky it was early on. Mumbai it seems to me that Mumbai have just got their side. It just looks wrong. Only playing 3 overseas. The top 4 are all horrifically out of form. Only Sky Yadav before they'd got 50 in the competition for Mumbai. So I think they've got a problem with the Pandyas. Krunal's bowling is clearly okay at best. I know he played for India in the one days and he got some runs, but I don't think his bowling is particularly great. Even today when Punjab spinners were going at 4 and over, Deepak Chahar went at under 5 and over. Krunal Pandya bowled 3 over 30. So they need to look at that. And also Hardik Pandya is a big problem for them. You know, if their top 5 aren't scoring any runs, you know, if Hardik's not bowling, is he good enough? Is he good enough to be there purely as a batter when you've got Kyron Pollard in there as well? You know, would that side be better balanced for Chris Lynn to come in that middle order and bat 5, and one of the Pandyas to miss out? I'm not saying that's what will happen, but it just seems at the moment that the 2 Pandyas offering a lot when one of them's not bowling very well and the other one's not bowling at all. So they've got some things to think about. Mumbai would typically start poorly and then come good at the end of the tournament. You know, they're not going to be too worried. They just need De Kock, Sharma, Sky and Ishan Kishan to find their form, and they'll be fine because their bowling looks pretty good, to be honest. So
I just agree with you, Chris. I don't think Chris Lynn should be doing anything else but opening. I think that's where his position is, and that's why he should bat. I think if you're going to put Chris Lynn in, you need to put Quinton de Kock down, because he is not firing at all. I know he's proven previous years, but he's not firing this season, and they need to react to that pretty quickly, because I actually don't think Quinton de Kock will get runs the whole season. There's something about the way he's batting that's off, and he shouldn't be opening. They need to have a person. And Chris Lynn proved that in the first match, and they're wasting him, not having him in the side. As is the likes of Milan as well for the Punjab Kings. I think there's distinctly 2 players that have been missed there. Bishnoi as well today, being missed early on. I'm scratching my head with a few of the selections, to be very honest with you. It's early days. I keep hearing this early days, but you've got to find a formula early and stick to it. You don't keep experimenting for the whole damn tournament. I think we've got to start to see the stable side. And that's where RCB are coming into play, because they've got a very stable side. And I don't care what anyone tells me about, they're experimenting, it's early this season. You do not do that if you've got a good side. You play your best side every game. And I'm overhearing people saying to me, it's too early. Find your right combination now. I don't understand what you're waiting for. And it annoys me seeing someone like Bishnoi not playing, and Milan not playing, and Chris Lynn not playing.
Bishnoi hadn't been playing because M. Ashwin had been playing and been bowling pretty well. You know, he's been a pretty decent fixture for Punjab in the last couple of years as M. Ashwin. So I was surprised that they left him out. But I think, as Dabas has said, I think De Kock and team are struggling with this wicket at Chennai. You know, they're all stroke players. They all like pace on the ball. De Kock especially, he's been brought up in South Africa, likes pace on the ball. So I think. Then
why are you playing him? Why are you playing a person? You know, I'm not having a go at Chris, but I'm not happy when people say to me, they're not the right person this week. Well, then, if they're not, they shouldn't be playing in that position. And that's what is annoying me. They need to be aware of the right. You can't use the excuse, this is not a good wicket for them. Well, then don't play them in that position.
But how many batters have scored runs batting first on this wicket? You know, it's easy to say, but all the best opening bats in the world like to pick the ball and a stroke maker. So you just go and drop all of them? You can't do that. So
I didn't say drop. I didn't say drop. I said to put in Chris Lynn in the appropriate position and have Quinton de Kock batting down the order. That's not dropping.
I don't think necessarily Chris Lynn's the answer. I think Sumitra was right. I think that I was very surprised when KL Rahul elected to bowl when he won the toss. Got it spot on. You know, fair play to him. I think that was a big risk, because I think everyone was expecting it to be a bat first wicket. Maybe the dew factor played a slight role. Maybe it just quickened the wicket up a fraction. But then again, Mumbai Indians have a bit more pace in their bowling attack. You know, if you look at the quickest bowler for Punjab was probably, Arshdeep. All their big fast bowlers weren't playing today. So maybe it was just a little bit easier facing, Bumrah for Punjab with that dew factor in the end. So they got it spot on, and, fair play. But I don't think Mumbai will be too worried. I think they'll be looking forward to going and playing at Delhi or Kolkata or in Mumbai again. So, I don't think many sides particularly look forward to playing on that Chennai wicket at the moment, to be honest.
Welcome, Gil. It's nice to be fashionably late. Very nice of you to come.
Hello.
For starters, I couldn't recognize the host today.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. You very much look like Tom Curran today.
Me?
Yeah.
I'll take that as a compliment, I think.
It's pretty hard on Tom Curran, that. I know he's still around the park, but he's not aged 50 years.
Chris, do we ask for your comment? No. Thank you very much. Chris, put your hand up when you need to talk, and then I'll ask you to talk. Thank you. Right. Okay. All right. I'm in the mood. Today, guys. Be careful. I'm in the mood. Now, the reality is that Ahmedabad's not going to be a hell of a lot different to Chennai, to be really honest with you. Ahmedabad has its unpredictability too in terms of pace on the ball and bounce. We found that depends what pitch you've got in Ahmedabad, as we saw through the series against England. But anyway, all right. Do you think more? Okay, I know my answer is going to be it's too early, but I'm going to ask this question: is it going to be insurmountable for Mumbai Indians to win a third title in a row this year? So which one?
Sorry, I didn't get you. Come again, Norman.
Is it insurmountable for Mumbai Indians to win 3 titles in a row this year?
I don't think so, because while I also agree that every team has played about 5 matches, but they will have to think. I mean, as Chris pointed out, that they have to think about the role of the Pandya brothers. So they really have to rework their plans and think what is the best combination in the park. Yeah, Pandyas are a very emotional choice for the Mumbai team. But again, you have to set emotions aside, especially after today's defeat, which is a pretty bad defeat. 9-wicket defeat is a bad defeat. And from a team which has been struggling to find a combination like Punjab. So, these kind of results have various kinds of impact on teams. I mean, they will have to think about Quinton de Kock. I quite agree with what Chris has said, because if Quinton is not performing, then they need to have somebody who will fire there. So Mumbai is not in a happy state of mind at all, because if you notice the matches they have won, they were very close matches, and just because of their bowling that they won, and it's not again the full. It is because of Rahul Chahar that they won, because they were playing in Chennai. And there's something I wish to say here, that a few days ago, when Sunrisers Hyderabad collapsed, they have been suffering these batting collapses. David Warner did not criticize the pitch. He said, hats off to the Chennai curator for preparing a deck every day for us to come and play a match, because this Chennai pitch has been hosting matches ever since the England tour. And this is the same square. And today, if you notice the square, it looked like a 5th day test wicket. Black, soft surface soil coming up, sticky, not a T20 wicket. So I think, most of these matches are good. I think today's victory will be a great morale booster for Punjab Kings, but they will really have to think about their bowling attack. There's a problem there. I think, when the teams move to Delhi, I think both Punjab and Mumbai will be moving to Delhi. You will see both the teams playing much better cricket. I will not make any predictions about 3 losses or anything like that, but all the teams will play much better cricket. That is what I feel.
Okay, very well said. Very well said. Now, Gil, you've joined us with your resplendent red colour. Are you giving us some sort of indication of who your favourites today? Who did you expect to win before the match?
I'll be very honest. I thought that the 11 that Punjab put out was fraughting with a little bit of risk, because it had only 3 proper bowlers in Arshdeep Singh, Mohammad Shami and Ravi Bishnoi. So the 8 overs from Enriquez, Hooda and Allen were going to be a risk. And as we found out, Allen went for 30 runs in those 3 overs. So I thought that Punjab have taken a risk, but you could sense why they had taken that risk, because they knew that they had batting depth. They figured out probably chasing is going to be better, so that even if Mumbai sort of say post 10 or 20 runs more than par, say if Mumbai post 150 also, they have the batting to chase it down. So they took a calculated risk. However, that risk could have gone wrong. Make no mistake about it, because I just thought, if Ishan Kishan wouldn't have been promoted and Surya Kumar Yadav would have come at 3, maybe Deepak Hooda wouldn't have bowled those 3 overs for just 15 runs, and probably Ravi Bishnoi could have also been attacked by Surya Kumar Yadav. But it's a game of very fine margins. Also, another thing that I think Mumbai are struggling with is that they're not getting wickets in the power play. Uh, Trent Bolt had a breakthrough season last time where he was taking at least 2 wickets in every game, or 1 wicket for sure. This season he's not getting it, and it's also difficult to expect him to do that job on the pitches that you have in Chennai. There is nothing in the air or off the pitch, so his effectiveness is also not going to be the same. When they move, probably they could have tried playing a Piyush Chawla somewhere, but it's easier to say that in hindsight. Once they move to Delhi, their batting will breathe a little easier, because even though the pitches might be slower, it won't be as slow as the Chennai wicket. Plus, the boundaries are shorter. Chennai on one side, the boundaries are considerably bigger. They are 70, 75. In Delhi, the square boundaries are very short. In fact, if you want to play in the third man or the fine leg area, the boundary is only 55 meters. So that is going to help their batting a little bit, because what they also get away with when they are playing in Wankhede is when they play a miss hit. Okay, it's especially towards the shorter boundaries. It just goes for a six. Somebody like a Pollard missing hit a shot. It is enough to carry over a 60-meter boundary. But in Chennai, because the grounds are bigger, even those miss hits don't go the distance, and they get up and they end up getting caught. So a few factors that will work in Mumbai's favor. But yeah, they need to sort of get more wickets and ask their bowlers to do a lot more than what they're doing right now.
Now, with Mohammad Shami, I'm actually I think one of the keys to their bowling attack is Mohammad Shami. He took what I think he took 2 wickets today, and he looked good. And he'll come into his own as the pitches speed up somewhat. He looks particularly good. I'm very impressed with his recovery after his broken arm. It's been a particularly strong one, and I think they need to be conscious of his play. All right. Again, 9-wicket victory with some 14 balls left. They won it in a canter, didn't they? And yeah, don't discount Chris Gale at all. That's certainly the case. And KL Rahul's been copping a bit of criticism, and he came through today. All right. Any other suggestions? Any other thoughts about Mumbai Indians? What they need to do? Chris, what other changes would you make? Or would you make changes?
I wouldn't be changing much. I wouldn't be changing much at the top. I get what you're saying about Quinton de Kock, but I'm a big fan of his. He's consistently proven that he's probably the best wicketkeeper bat in the world. I know Rishabh Pant is now in those mixes as well, but those two are by far probably the benchmark at the moment in world cricket. And as a batter in the IPL, Quinton de Kock has certainly proven his worth. I think that they just need to work out what they want to do, as Smith said, with the bowling lineup. I think that Krunal Pandya's bowling, I know he came in the one-day series, and it was great that he got a 50. I think that probably masks over his bowling. Certainly isn't international level. And I just think that he gets found out a little bit in the IPL, and it's Rahul Chahar has dragged them both through it really at the moment. He's bowled fantastically well, and is probably showing the gulf of class between what you need to be an Indian, to be considered as a frontline spinner for India. So I think the key for them is that Bumrah seems he's bowling quite well from what I've seen, but he's not taking the wickets or hasn't been as threatening as he had in previous seasons. Does that sound fair? So I think in previous seasons it's been Bumrah and Bolt have got sides 50 for 3, 40 for 3 every game, and it's really easy, straightforward for the rest of the bowlers to come and dominate. But all of a sudden, if Krunal Pandya or Kieran Pollard are coming on and Bumrah and Bolt haven't taken out the top order, then it just makes it harder. So I think Jasprit Bumrah will be fine. He'll probably enjoy bowling on the quicker wickets more in Delhi or in Mumbai. So I don't think in Mumbai will be too worried. They've often started slow. I think the last time they won it, or certainly 2 years ago when they won it, they were bottom after 4 or 5 games. They started slowly and then were basically unbeatable. So as soon as they hit some form, Ishan Kishan can do some runs, then they'll be fine. I fully expect them to finish top 4, and that's all you have to do, really, isn't it? Let's face it, it's all good. You want to finish top because you want to go into the first eliminator, but as long as you finish in the top 4, you've got a chance. And I think for some of these sides, it's job done. Top 4, and then you win 3 games in the tournament.
So you're saying it's a game of two tournaments then? It's the firstly is to get into the top four, and then once you're in the top four, you then have a different pace to your performance. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think it's a different pace. I think that the biggest thing for these sides is let's just qualify. You know, I know they want to finish top because they get 2 chances at the final and but top 2. But you know, for some of all these sides are very similar. You know, CSK have started well. You know, if you said to most of these sides you'll finish 3rd or 4th, they'll probably be really happy with that because it means that they've gotten through the long group stage, if you like, and into the finals where it really matters. One thing you can't do if you finish 5th is win it. You can if you finish in the top 4. So I think that a lot of these sides just really concentrate on trying to start well, and you know, RCB now would have to basically implode not to finish in that top 4, so they'll be really pleased. But I mean, what a performance that was from them last night. You know, I wasn't on, and they're my favourite side. So you know, brilliant to see. I hope they win it this year.
Although I've got one doubt about your thoughts, Chris, because you said from up front that CSK would be last quite clearly, and I'm afraid you're quite wrong so far on that basis.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I would probably look to change my thoughts slightly. I still don't.
While we've lost Chris, I'm going to make it very clear that he was quite emphatic that CSK would be last, and I don't think he's going to be right. I'm just enjoying that moment while he's not here, guys. He can't talk back to me. CSK will not be last. Chris is wrong. Just mark that on the record for me, please. Sebastian, have that on the record. Chris Vernon, wrong. Oh, welcome back, Chris. Welcome back. Welcome back, Chris. We were talking highly about you then, Chris. We were talking highly about you.
In answer to your question on CSK, I still don't think they'll finish top 4.
Hang on. You said they were last.
I'm going to answer your question, Norman, if you let me.
Okay.
I think that looking at the other side and how, you know, I don't think they'll finish last now, but purely because Rajasthan have had basically 2 of the best players in the world taken out from them. So they're going to be, I would probably say that they're going to finish bottom now because, you know, take Ben Stokes and Jofra Archer out, they're going to struggle. So, I mean, I guess looking at how the tournament's progressed, you know, when we did our predictions, this was before the tournament when Archer and Stokes were going to be there and fit. So, you know, I still think that CSK might get found out a little bit by better sides. You know, I still think they're quite an old side, and you know, I don't see Faf du Plessis his form continuing. So, it's good to see. You know, I don't have anything against CSK. I'm just trying to, if Punjab find form, you know, Delhi go well, if Sunrisers come good, which they will do because they're a good side, then I just don't see CSK having quite enough firepower with battle ball man for man that the others do. So that's why I don't think they'll finish top 4. I mean, if they do, fair play, but Rajasthan look like they could be the whipping boys in this tournament, don't they?
I still don't think Punjab Kings are going to make anywhere near the top 4, even though they played admirably well today. I just don't think they've got it really there enough to keep going at this level. They've had a good game today, as did Rajasthan Royals against DC recently as well. But we've just spoken about that. I still think Punjab Kings will head further south, not north, in the table. Symmetra, what's your take? Or are you?
I agree with you. In fact, you asked Chris what are the changes that Mumbai Indians would like to do. I mean, if you were going to ask me the same question, then the most stable teams don't make too many changes. Like you would have noticed what Chennai Super Kings did in the last match, and they did very well. They'll make subtle changes. They'll make. I like, for example, yes, there is a question mark about the Pandya brothers. That Hardik Pandya will not bowl was known. That Hardik Pandya will not bowl in this tournament was pretty well known. So it is not come as a surprise at all. But I think teams like Chennai, Mumbai, Bangalore, they will not make too many changes going forward. As far as if you say the top 4 people, the top 4 teams, definitely the most stable sides. Obviously, Delhi, RCB, unbeaten so far, Mumbai, and the 4th slot could be anybody's game. You know, the same thing happened last year also when you saw the tournament in UAE. two teams were guaranteed of the top four finish, but again, Delhi started, wobbling again, then finally made it at the last minute. But uh, Sunrisers Hyderabad will be a dark horse because with Kane Williamson coming into the middle order, they will look better, definitely look better, and don't count out Jason Horler, but they will have to now decide which are the four foreign players that they're going to choose. So a lot of permutation combinations, but to answer your questions, the top teams will not make too many changes in their lineup going forward, and teams like Rajasthan Royals, Punjab Kings, um then of course Sunrisers Hyderabad, they will have to experiment with their playing 11. If you notice, Kolkata Knight Riders are also not doing too many changes. They are banking on their key players, and although a very talented youngster like Shubman Gill is now scoring runs, you will see that they will continue to back those players, and especially because what the only thing that they have to do is that their captain has to do better.
Exactly.
More has to do better, much better. If he does better, KKR will look a very different side.
Owen Morgan's form the entire year has been very ordinary in any of the formats we've seen. That's a big question mark at the moment is around Owen Morgan. We didn't mention much about Pollard today either. We talked about the Pandya brothers, but I think Pollard needs to step up as well. They're relying on him bowling, and his bowling's not that great, and his batting hasn't come together yet. So there's some problems around them as well. KKR, of course, have the likes of they've got some incredible players in that team. And when they came back the other day, and they almost won a match from nowhere, and there's Andre Russell.
Yeah.
That was outstanding. And yeah, you're right. KKR actually went down no other. All right. So for what you're saying, Sumitra, you are seeing a lot more in RCB and DC. In fact, I maintain that those two teams will be significant. Unless they have an incredible form slump, I think those two teams will figure very prominently in the top four.
Definitely. In fact, they look the best side so far. If you see, they man for man, they have a backup for every person. So that is the best thing about the backups that they have. For every player, they have a backup. Otherwise, a person like Ricky Ponting will not be experimenting with a player like Lalit Yadav. See how he's grooming that youngster into that particular batting position now in the top of the order. It is because of one thing that because the talent that's oozing in the team. You can that's why you see RCB, a guy like Devdutt Palikkal scoring a century. It completely depends on the team management, the guys you want to push.
Absolutely.
And this is the best thing about it. Unfortunately, Rajasthan Royals have tried to do the same thing, but the players like Riyan Parag, Shivam Dube have not clicked. See, these are the small youngsters who are making the difference. Yes, you will always have the star players like Russell, Pollard, and all these, but the little differences like Ishan Kishan did for Mumbai Indians last time, right? Yeah. Now you see all these youngsters who are making an impact in the tournament have been the differentiator between winning and losing, the champion side and not the champion side.
Yeah, and that's I agree with you totally. I think the influence of Ponting over Delhi Capitals can't be underplayed, and on top of that, Simon Kadich with his relationship to RCB should not be underplayed. And I look at the Punjab Kings, and again, I think I mentioned in an earlier report, I look at the bench a lot during a match, when possible, to judge the mood of the team. Now, Punjab Kings, even though they won today, I looked at Kumble and I think Andy Flower and the like, and I think it's John G. Rhodes. I still don't think they were a bit. I would argue a bit of shock about the way Punjab Kings play. They were gleeful about it rather than calculating. Gil.
See, RCB have had a good going so far. They've won 4 out of 4, but I'd still be concerned about that bowling attack because if you consider the game yesterday, Rajasthan Royals were 43 for 4. For any team to reach 177 from 43 for 4, it is also down to poor bowling and the lack of quality in the bowling. I think what RCB have done so far is that they've gotten away with a few favorable pitches. Like in Chennai, the likes of Harshal Patel did extremely well because they rely on the slower one and they were becoming hard to get away. But yesterday, Harshal Patel went for 47 runs. So when they play those 5 games in Kolkata and one more game in Wankhede, then their bowling is going to be tested. I still feel that there's a need for improvement in RCB's bowling. What is happening so far is that Mohammad Siraj is stepping up like no one had imagined, but there is eventually a need for RCB to play someone like Navdeep Saini when the time comes, because they don't have anyone else in their lineup who can go for Yorkers consistently and can bully the batsman with pace or short of length deliveries. Harshal Patel is doing well so far, but at his pace, the margin of error is going to be absolutely minimal when he starts going for Yorkers and he doesn't nail them. So that is one concern. Even Kyle Jamieson isn't a great death bowler. Kane Richardson also, went for 30 runs in 3 overs yesterday. So that bowling does have issues. It's just that it hasn't been exposed so far. Yuzvendra Chahal is also not doing great. So there's a possibility that Adam Zampa might come into the 11 in the second half. So both Delhi and RCB also have issues. It's just that those issues are being, covered up or masked with wins. But it's not that these teams are not beatable. Delhi will obviously get stronger once Akshar Patel joins them back, and on different pitches when they start playing Nokia as well. I feel in the next game that Delhi are going to play, they are probably going to bring in Akshar Patel in place of Lalit Yadav, and go in with 3 proper spinners in Akshar, Mishra, and Ashwin. So it's going to be a good game, Delhi versus SRH, because on the other hand, there is going to be Rashid Khan, and I suspect that someone like a Shahbaz Nadeem might play too, because if you see the number of right-handers in Delhi's lineup, it makes all the more sense for him to come back.
There are some very good points there. I must say, I don't really want to stand out on countries, but the Australian contingent of players that have played in the IPL so far have been, I would argue, rather underwhelming. And even the South Africans, except for maybe Faf du Plessis in his performance, have been rather underwhelming as well.
And Abrahams. Don't forget Mr. De Villiers, please.
I'm sorry. Yes, I won't forget your favourite player.
He's in 3 knocks. I think that'll go okay.
Yeah, but De Villiers, I'm sorry, but De Villiers is not playing for South Africa at the moment.
Faf du Plessis retired anyway. Faf du Plessis retired as well, so.
Yeah, well then.
De Villiers is everyone's favourite, Norman. He's everyone's
but hang on, South Africa are pretty dumb, because if you've got AB de Villiers and you've got Faf du Plessis playing so well in this tournament, why the hell aren't they playing for their country? Anyway, we'll leave it at that.
I don't think that's South Africa's decision. I think that's their decision. I don't think that South Africa have asked them to retire. So.
Oh, but if they're going to be crawling back to the AB de Villiers to play in the World Cup, don't you worry. They're probably sitting at his doorstep right now wanting to play, aren't they?
I think in response to Gil, I am an RCB fan and my favourite team, and I've always said that if they could sort their bowling out, then there will always be a threat, and that I think they've sorted out enough in this tournament. But I think the key for them is that they've now, with Glenn Maxwell in there, they've actually now got a batting lineup that can. I think that the weak bowling is negated by the longer batting. Does that make sense? So I think that they were probably sitting there before thinking, we've just got Kohli and De Villiers. We've got this young guy called Padikal who's going to be good, but is still quite fresh. Whereas they've now got Maxwell in there. And if Maxwell's in form and happy, then all of a sudden I think that they can afford to lose an extra 10, 15 runs from their bowling a game, because I think that that's what Maxwell can bring to that side. So they've definitely strengthened. I'd like to see Adam Zampa in there. Especially on other wickets. Then again, they might think that Glenn Maxwell can bowl. He's bowled quite a lot for Australia, bowled a lot in the Big Bash. They might just say, you know what, maybe Maxwell can do a good job as our 5th bowler, and we'll just play an extra batter. We'll bring Dan Christian in, who can do a bit of both as a good finisher and give us options. So they've certainly got options there, haven't they? I'm not convinced by Kane Richardson. I think on the quicker wickets, he'll probably get whacked by the better players. So they'll either go for Zampa or Christian, I would imagine, would be their first choice benchers would be, if that makes sense.
It's intriguing how Cricket Australia gave out 17 contracts for the next year, and that showed a lot of interest because that, to me, they're watching the IPL pretty closely because they gave quite a few of the players that are playing well in the IPL contracts and left out ones that are not. So it was interesting to see that happen. So at least Australia are watching the IPL and staying up late like I am to watch the matches. All right, Symmetry, you've been very quiet there.
Well, it's all right. I think De Villiers and Fab du Plessis may not play for South Africa, but you still count them as South Africans. Why are you saying the Australians are not playing well? I think Chris Lynn did very well in his very first match he played.
So you're telling me Meredith and Jai Richards have been playing well? My foot. Those two have been dropped.
No. I'm not talking about them. I'm saying that this is the main player.
You can't, hang on, you said Australians, and then you told me that they're not playing well, and you're not including, they're Australian.
It's all right. You have to give everybody a longer rope, and and they're not playing every match, so it's all right. I think, but from an Indian point of view, I think your chief Indian players are making a mark. The youngsters are doing very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the best. I said before, the differentiators will be the Indians, the younger Indians who are coming into play.
Absolutely.
Like that's why yesterday. The most heartening thing was Devdutt Padikal's century and the way he scored his runs.
Oh, magnificent.
The joy he brought in his batting. I think even Virat Kohli was enjoying the way Devdutt was batting. We always want to see new players coming and play. Like Shivam Dube, that little knock that he played. I mean, of course, Rajasthan Royals may not have won, but we all like him to play. Like Abhishek Sharma of Sunrisers Hyderabad. These are the emerging forces of Indian cricket. Maxwell, De Villiers are proven customers. You expect them to do well. Shane Watson, of course, he's not playing. But
we don't really care about Shane Watson, how he plays.
But the best thing about the IPL is the emerging talent that we get to see. And
exactly.
That's why India are right on top of the world, because there's a stream of talent, and man for man they can replace. And that is one of the targets of the Indian cricket management, is to have at least 3 teams ready at any stage to play all 3 formats of the game. And IPL is just the right breeding ground to produce these kind of players.
And there's a question I've got to bring up here. The Indian players playing the IPL are not allowed to play BBL, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
They are not allowed to play anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, there lies the problem for world cricket. We need to have those sorts of players playing in Australia and wherever to actually improve the games in other countries to give world cricket a chance. I think that the domination of India is very much deserved, and I applaud that. But they need to share that around, and we need to see that in other countries, because we need to have that experience where their ability drags up other countries' young players as well. Very much what India is doing to their own players. And that's the key. And I don't accept the fact that they're not allowed to play other tournaments. I would like them to play to help world cricket.
We've spoken about this before, and I would love England to turn around and say to India, well, if you're not going to send your boys over to play in our one-day stuff and strengthen, you can say Pujara, Bahari, we don't want them to come and play in our county championship cricket, because there's only one reason that they're happy for them to come over. It's because they want them to improve in English conditions. So, I'm not saying it should happen. I'm just saying it would be amazing to see a potential stance that the Indian Cricket Board might take if all of a sudden Kohli can't come and bat in England, Pujara can't come and do it. There's no doubt in my mind that those batters are improving more playing red ball cricket in England than Kohli is coming and playing a white ball cricket tournament in this country. They're not getting any better. They're just making the tournament better. Then the IPL is always going to be number one. Let's face it. There's no doubt that the English cricket domestic would just be a great spectacle if Sharma was here. So it would just be fun to see if the England Cricket Board turned around and said, no Indian overseas are allowed to play red ball cricket until they decide to send some boys over and play white ball cricket. So it won't happen. But it's just a shame from a cricket point of view. I'd love to see Virat Kohli playing in in the T20 comp over here. Because why wouldn't you want to see him playing?
But
Yeah, if you want, go ahead,
I have
Russ.
a point. Why would the BCCI allow the Indian cricketers to play abroad if they are winning matches, if they are winning series in Australia, if they are winning series in all across the globe? Then is there a need for the Indian players to go and play county cricket?
Well, they all
Obviously,
do.
obviously, I do agree the fact that India have not won a series since 2007. If I'm not wrong, 2007, the last time that India won a series against England, we won the not Trent Bridge Test match. But ever since, we haven't won a series in England. We did win a Test match at Lords where Rahane played a wonderful century. But then, uh, uh, given the fact that we have won two series back to back, two series against Australia, mm,
But you're
You're
not strength.
missing the point. You're missing the point totally.
You're not
It's not
strengthening
about
the white
improving
ball,
Indian
the big
players.
bash.
It's about world cricket. It's about world cricket. It's not about India benefiting from going overseas. It's about the world benefiting from Indian players going overseas. That's what this point is about. We're not trying to improve Indian cricketers, by the way, because they're damn good at the moment. I don't think they need a lot of improvement. The reality is what they need to do is share their talents around the world for us to showcase cricket. That's what we're getting at. It's not about allowing them to improve. It's not about that. It's about the world cricket being able to hold firm. When the West Indies dominated and Australia dominated, one of the failings of those periods were other sides conceded defeat and didn't improve as much as they should have because of that very fact. So I think India is now going to dominate the next 10 years, whatever time they do, and they need to allow world cricket to still keep pace.
Yeah, that's
Possibly.
My point.
this is an ideal situation, but Norman, this will not happen because the dynamics of cricket, the politics of cricket, will prevent all this. That is why today you see an ICC which is completely divided. You talk about so we are actually getting away from an IPL. This is a much larger discussion. You see, that is why these things will never happen. There was a time when there were talks. We have read in the press that Tom Harrison is talking that some Indian players will come and play the 100 in England, but those things will never happen. You know that the dynamics of international cricket is totally dependent on how the politics works between the countries and the cricket boards.
True.
I am not even talking about that. Why I can raise a very what delicate question here that why should Pakistani cricketers, who are some of the best T20 players in the world, should not play in India? You tell me. These are political questions. The dynamics of international cricket totally depends on boardroom equations between countries. That is
True.
why today you have the big three concept. That is why and when has India thought about the world? By nature, every country only thinks about themselves. It is a proven fact. History has shown that. Nobody has, only maybe the West Indians, when we were kids, some of the fastest bowlers like Charlie Griffith, they used to come and play domestic cricket in India. But those were days, in the 70s and 80s, 60s and 70s. The world has moved. Everybody thinks about themselves. That's why today an Indian board will say, you give us the largest lion's share of ICC's revenue. And today you look at the ICC, when the world's cricket governing body is absolutely fragmented and divided, where is the question of thinking about the better improvement of cricketers across the globe? It is always going to remain a top heavy game, and it will always be confined to an India, to an England and Australia. And very slowly you will see there's going to be India, and then the other countries will. That is what is very important, that Australia and England produce their own cricketers so that they can combat India at every format.
Well, that still pushes me towards the comment that if India shares some of their players in our country,
They will never do. It will never.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it at that.
Because
All right,
that's just because it's just because India don't benefit from it. Why do they send players to England to play county cricket? Because they're getting something out of it, because they benefit from it. India don't benefit out of them coming to England or to Australia to play white ball cricket. So I think that other sides are still competing. England is still the best white ball side in the world, in 2020 cricket, and in They won the last World Cup, so it's not like India are completely dominating. India have got their hardest test series, much harder test series for India is coming to England than is going to Australia, in my opinion. I think I think that if Kohli wins in England, then you can start saying we're the best side or going and winning in New Zealand. I don't think you did well in New Zealand either. So they're the most alien conditions, and not many sides do it. The West Indies obviously did it. Australia did it, the great Australian side. The England side of 2010-11 did it. They won pretty much everywhere. Not many sides do it anymore. So for India to be the best side, they've got to beat England and New Zealand. And they're very close to doing it. It's going to be a very, very good series. I don't think we have to start about world domination yet because there's still very good white ball sides out there as well.
I just have a couple of things to add, especially on what Soumitra said. So, the domination that we see of the top three, the 10-team World Cup is a result of that. I thought that as from where I see and from where I stand, I think no World Cup should just have 10 teams. 14 should have been the minimum. It's good that they are going back to 14 in 2027, I think. But there's obviously a scope for having more teams. If you see all other sports, they are increasing the number of teams that are taking part in the World Cup. Even Hockey World Cup that happened in 2018, that had 16 teams. Football World Cup has 32 teams. So I think it's an onus that lies on all the top three nations. Apart from that, as far as India is concerned, one thing that I think they definitely should do is that players who have retired, say someone like a Suresh Raina, now he's retired. He's only playing in the IPL. He's not going to play for India. Somebody like him should be allowed to play overseas leagues, not just because his presence helps the overseas leagues, but it also allows him to earn a source of revenue. When you sort of make a rule that even a retired Indian player can't play in other series or in other leagues, then it's slightly unfair. But I also understand why they don't do it. The reason they don't do it is because they know that even if a retired Indian cricketer goes and plays some other league, he will bring in some more crowds. And that would do is that would increase the TRPs and the popularity of other leagues, which they don't want to happen, because they understand that even the leagues which are outside of India, say the BBL, the CPL, the Global T20 that happened, or the PSL, etc. Indians are the ones that watch all leagues. So if an Indian player is going to play that league, it is obviously going to increase that popularity, but it is a direct threat to the popularity of the IPL, and that is why they don't do it. But there is definitely a scope for the BCCI and other boards to meet at a middle line and sort of agree, okay, this is something that you should do, because at the end of the day, all boards should look to increase the popularity of the sport. Let's not be mistaken about it that cricket is still a very elite sport. It's still a very close sport. Not more than 15 or 16 countries play it, and out of those 16, I don't think six teams or 6 nations can compete with other top 10 nations. While if you look at other sports, the audience is much bigger, and that is why those sports are spreading to different parts of the world.
Okay, just quickly on that, there's no doubt about one thing, Gil. Cricket in the world is a lot larger than you're making out. There's more than 16 countries playing it. Maybe not necessarily at the elite level, but there's a hell of a lot more, especially with women's cricket. They match anyone. In fact, the second biggest sport in the world is actually cricket behind soccer. So that's another aspect. Yep. All right, Chris.
That was interesting point on the allowing. Why is the IPL so successful? I know it's because of the Indian talent show. What happens if other countries, say Australia or England, just turned around and said, well, we support your IPL. The BCCI expects us and our players come over to play. Archer comes over, often miss international fixtures. This year, some of them will miss potentially 2 test matches against New Zealand to stay and play for the IPL. What happens if they turned around and said, if you don't want India, your lads to come and play in domestic competitions, we won't make our boys available to come and play in the IPL? What happens if there were no English overseas? I know it won't happen, but I'm saying it's easy to say we're not going to send anyone else because we've got the IPL. But what happens if the shoe is on the other foot and all of the best overseas, and most of them are English or Australian at the moment, what happens if they didn't come or the West Indians pulled out? What happens if they said, we're dying, cricket in West Indies is dying. We really want Kohli and Sharma to come to the West Indies and play in the Caribbean Premier League because we're desperate for the money that they would bring in. And India turn around and say, it's not happening. What happens if they say, well, you know, do you know what I mean? Like, it seems that there needs to be a bit of give and take, because the IPL is fantastic and no one's ever going to compete with the IPL, but it's brilliant because all the overseas stars are there playing in it. What happens if they don't? It just turns into a domestic tournament. So, as I said, it just needs, as Gil said, it some kind of middle ground or discussion over it would be great, because it from a cricket point of view, you want to see the best players playing in all the leagues possible, don't you?
Well, most of the CPL sides are actually owned by Indians anyway, so I don't know whether there's necessarily any distinguishing line between CPL and IPL for that matter. Anyway, all right. I want
and if you could allow me, just and the amount of money the foreign cricketers earn playing in the IPL means I just have a point. Means, will the players refrain themselves from playing in the IPL? I doubt, because the amount of money they earn from take the instance of England cricketers. Means, you name it. Did any one English cricketer come out and say that I don't want to play the IPL? Means, it's
No,
obviously.
but my point is, Tabassus, is that do you really think that someone like Hardik Pandya or Jasprit Bumrah or Rohit Sharma wouldn't want to go and play in the Big Bash?
These cricketers are paid heavily by their franchise. These cricketers are paid heavily by their franchise, so they don't bother thinking two ways in playing abroad. They are quite satisfied playing in the IPL.
But I don't think it's a money thing as well, because Ben Stokes is paid £1 million a year by the England Cricket Board. They don't need the money. They're doing it because it's extra money, and I'm sure they love it. So the India, you can't. I refuse to believe that none of the Indian team wouldn't want to play in the Big Bash. Who wouldn't? Why wouldn't you want to go and live in Sydney for a month and play in the Big Bash? They would all do it because they would love to do it. They're just being told they can't.
And have lunch and dinner with Norman is also significantly. So, all right.
Just a very quick point I want to add. You have to appreciate one thing, that while this is a very why doesn't Rohit Sharma go and play in a Big Bash? We have to understand one thing, that most of the top Indian cricketers have a lot of endorsements and commercial contracts apart from playing cricket.
But that's the same for all countries. All, Jofra Archers, Ben Stokes, AB de Villiers, they all have similar.
Every I'm telling you, even the second, all the contracted players have a lot of commercial, engage commitments which they have to fulfill, and they only fulfill it during the off season when there is no cricket. So I doubt Rohit Sharma will ever go and play in Big Bash, because he rather, first of all, their calendar is completely chock-a-block. Out of 365 days of cricket that in a year, they are probably playing 200 days. Rest of the time, they are now family people. They have a lot of other commitments, commercial commitments. I doubt they will go, and that is one of the prime reasons why the Indian Cricket Board does not allow its main contracted players go and play in other leagues, because from the burnout factor, apart from the commercial interests.
But it's not just main contracted players; it's any player. It's not just the 12 blokes on their central contract, and they've all, the English players, the Australian players, they've all got similar schedules. They're all the England boys are playing in the 100. They've got 17 Test matches, an IPL, a T20 World Cup. They're all playing in the 100. So I understand the point about being burnt out, but they all earn the same money. They all have media commitments. They all have endorsements. So I get what you mean.
Also, it's not something that is, so if a player is feeling burnt out, then the player can obviously say no also, right? I just think if the player, it's not a compulsion for any player to definitely play, but one thing that I definitely believe, that players who have retired, they should be allowed to play in the other leagues. Like Irfan Pathan had to retire from the IPL also to play in the LPL. That shouldn't happen. I think someone who's retired and is not willing to play in the Ranji Trophy or the Vijay Hazare Trophy or in India colours, he or even she, because India doesn't have a women's IPL yet, they should be allowed to play in whichever league they want.
Well, they do have a women's IPL. They do. There is a form of it. There is There's 3, 4
No,
sides floating around.
I wouldn't call 4-match thing.
No, you're right. It should be 8. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, guys. I'm just conscious of time. I think we've gone not away from the topic. It's very relevant, and I'm sick of the IPL teams asking me to play. I'll put on record, guys. I'm not interested. I've got too many other things to do. I've got commitments to extra time. I can't play the IPL. All right, back to the Rajasthan Royals versus KKR. The next match.
You're right there, Norman.
Who's it? RR versus KKR. Is it an important match or is it not? It certainly is for KKR.
Definitely for both the teams, it is important because they
Important
have
one for both teams.
Yes,
both
very
teams.
important for both teams.
Both very important.
much.
Both sides need to stop the rot. They both have very leaky bowling attacks. So it's in Mumbai as well, isn't it? So it might be a high-scoring affair tomorrow. And let's hope, because after 128 or 131 today, the good thing about the Chennai pitches is that usually the game after is in Mumbai at the Wankhede when it's 200 plays 190, so it's a bit I can look forward to the game tomorrow because I know it's in Mumbai. So let's hope that we see a lot of runs and
I think it will depend. It will depend on Rajasthan Royals' top 5 batsmen. If they top 4 batsmen, not 5, only if they can harness the KKR attack, which I think they have variety in the attack, and then it will be a good game. If Rajasthan Royals bat first, somebody from their top 4 will have to stick till the end, and I guess it will be Josh Butler. And because I have a feeling that KKR has a much deeper batting depth, which was very much evident in the last match, and the way Pat Cummins and Andrew Russell batted, which this is something that RR doesn't have. So if you ask me, it'd be 70 and 30, 70 for KKR, 30 for Rajasthan Royals.
But I didn't ask you 70-30. I asked you for one winner. So it's symmetrical.
KKR.
Okay.
I think it's also a big game from, I'm going to go purely from an English standpoint. I think the English boys have had a reasonably decent IPL, but the 2 main headliners left, the 2 biggest English stars at the moment are Butler and Morgan. Curran and Moeen have done very well. Bairstow's done well. But the 2 probably biggest boys left are Butler and Morgan, and they've pretty much done 0 so far. So head-to-head tomorrow, it might be interesting to see which one comes out on top there. And Josh Butler he'll come good, and hopefully on that wicket against a nervous bowling attack. Pat Cummins has leaked some runs. They've not, they've gone for a few runs. So maybe we'll see, as Sumitra said, maybe we'll see Josh Butler back to form tomorrow. Let's hope.
Okay, so I didn't ask about how will English players play. I'm asking who's going to win.
KKR.
My God, is my English that bad that 2 of you have not answered my bloody question until I asked?
You both said KKR.
Did I ask about how England plays? No, it's I didn't ask about the 70-30, 80-20 rubbish. I wasn't. Jesus. Gil, I'm going to ask the question. I'll say it in slow English. Who is going to win tomorrow? Do not tell me. Thank you. Right. Thank you, guys. That's really good about how you save time by talking about all sorts of other stuff.
Just like analysing the game, Norman. We're
more
question. English and Indians are a bit more intelligent than you Australians.
I didn't ask about how England's going to play tomorrow. I don't care about bloody England. I wanted the result. Jesus.
I know that the Australians are a bit slow and not as clever, so we need to talk
I'm
slowly.
going to talk to you for another hour. I'm going to talk to you for another hour in eyes on cricket. I can argue with you there. Okay. Jabashis.
I would go for KKR. Obviously, the fight.
Thank you. Thank you. Someone gives me an answer. Thank you. All right. Gil, have you answered? I can't even remember now. Did you answer?
Yeah, you asked me. I said KKR, but one thing that I want to add, I think it's important that KKR play Lockie Ferguson tomorrow. They need to play in place of Sunil Narine. And also
the fact that Owen Morgan have the second worst record as far as captaincy is concerned in IPL after KL Rahul. So I think as a captain, you need to fire and lead from the front.
Well said. Well said. Straight to the point.
One thing that I was surprised with yesterday, and I don't know whether there's some IPL loyalty sort of nostalgia there. Why on earth did Shakib get dropped for Sun and Orion? I don't get that at all. I know that Sun and Orion has played for years, and there's a bit of loyalty there, but Shakib's by far in both with bat and ball a better option, and in the field. You know,
Yes, I agree with you. I completely agree with you.
I just
I
didn't
think
get it.
they played Narayan because of his record against MS Dhoni, but eventually he got to bowl only 2 deliveries at MS Dhoni, and I genuinely feel that if they had played someone like a Lockie Ferguson, he would have been a better matchup against Suresh Raina, Ambati Raidu, Moin Ali, even MS Dhoni. We know all these batsmen struggle against extra space, and especially when the ball is bowled into their body. So I think Morgan missed that matchup as well. But the good thing from the KKR point of view is McCullum's notebook is not there, because whenever he was writing the notes on the notebook, whatever he did in the next game hardly made any sense last season. So the good thing is the notebook's out.
I'm going to stop you guys. This is enough. We could talk another 3 hours while you guys are going. And Gil, you must be having a love affair with Lockie Ferguson. Have you got a post of him on your wall as well? I'm not sure. I think you've taught Lockie Ferguson. That's what you're talking about. All right. Enough, guys. Enough. You hear me? Enough. We're leaving now. So I'm going to say goodbye from Norman Koshnick for Extra Time. You've all been gas bagging too much tonight. No, it's been great. It's been fantastic. Thank you for your time.
Good night.
Stop smiling, Smithra. All right, guys. It's time to leave. We'll see a few of you on the flip side. This is Norman Koshnick for Extra Time signing off. Thank gosh. All right.
Thank you very much,
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ciao.